Thinking of investing, working, or starting a business in the cannabis industry? We've got you covered right here on Plant Problems. Hosted by Tony Frischknecht, Plant Problems takes a different approach to cannabis than what you're seeing and hearing from the mainstream media. Come along with Tony and be in the know about how to invest, work, or start a cannabis business. Let's get the show started with your host, Tony Frischknecht.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Plant Problems. This is Tony Frischknecht, your host. I appreciate you guys joining me today. Today, we're going to talk about, the subject, partnerships. How will they work into your business and how can they help you? First of all, I want everybody to understand that these are essentially their professional marriages. Had I understood that when I started my first real big partnership, I would have thought about it much differently. Of course, now I've had much time to mull over the situations, and led me to understand is that a lot of the times why I brought in a partner was because it was something that I was lacking. A lot of that was income-wise, funding. If you don't have any money, you don't have anybody you can hire to work. So who ends up working? You. Unless you get a partnership where they can help on this end, hey, they're not getting paid either. So we're all in the same boat. I think that's why I did it, and so many will, is because of that, little situations like that. We got into my first major partnership was in a dispensary and a grow. The regulations were changing on us, where in Colorado they had, at the time, what's called vertical integration, where you had to grow your product, sell 70% of it through your store, and you could either wholesale that extra 30% or sell it all through your store, whatever the case may be. Well, in the beginning, 2010, we could easily sell everything we grew, so it really was not an issue. Well, I had a silent partner at the time. We had a 5,000 square foot warehouse that we were growing out of, but we did not have a store. And if anybody out there has started to grow or looked into starting one, you know how capital intensive they are. Much cheaper to go in the dispensary business. Your licensing is kind of expensive, but it is in the growth side as well. So the other side of that is you can't write off business expenses as much like you can in the growth. So a lot of pluses and minuses here. So anyway, July of 2010, at the end of July, we had to be vertically integrated with a dispensary. Well, what were we going to do? We had sunk all our money into our grow, and we were working for free. So where the heck were we going to find money to buy or start a dispensary? Not only that, the zoning was changing rapidly because they were trying to keep us away from schools and parks. And when you start, if anybody's dealt with any zoning, you know how quickly those spaces will block you out of any type of real estate that's available. And so if there's nothing to rent, let's look at buying something. Well, if you don't have any money, you're not going to get a loan on a dispensary from any bank. So you're kind of out of luck there. So we had to find a partner, find fast. Basically, we had to find somebody that had what we didn't have, which was the dispensary. So we found a couple, and we had started working with them. And they were building the store. Me and my silent partner, we kind of had the grow knowledge at the time, the majority of it. So we were running the grow. So it seemed to be at the time like, oh, this is perfect. They have this, we have that. We have our thing, they have their thing. It seemed like a simple partnership. Such as when you're dating, you don't really truly know the person until after a few dates, right? Thank God I'm not dating anymore, but there are so many red flags that you see in the dating world that sometimes you're blind to, and sometimes you pick a bad relationship. I think everybody out there has had at least one in their life. If not, congratulations. So we had met these partners in June. Really only gave us about 60 days to put something together, sign paperwork, and become partners. And all that's happening while we're making sure our grow is still producing its first crop. I also have my part-time job. So we've got all these things kind of happening at once. 2 months worth of dating goes very quickly. And when you're dating, you're seeing how you get along with somebody. You're also spending some social time together. Maybe you're having dinner with them. You're doing drinks. You're also understanding what they can bring to the table. Well, at the time, we didn't have a whole lot of options. So it was more of a handshake and a shotgun marriage. A lot of those things that usually have the time for, like seeing red flags and stuff, you tend to kind of glaze over because the bigger picture is, where do I really sit with this partnership? Are they going to be as good as partners as I think they're going to be? I don't know. And at that time, we didn't know either. What we did know is that we would be out of business in 60 days unless we had a partnership. So the lesser of two evils, right? I guess we'll have to take this on. Fast forward to the end of July, we sign our papers. Everybody's like, great, this partnership's good. We got 30 days before we're going to harvest our plants, and then we'll be able to open our store in the next couple months. So we'll have flour there. It was almost as if I hear those stories where people get married and all of a sudden everything changes. It was literally like we got done the next day. We were dealing with issues in the grow because they thought we should be doing this and we knew we should be doing this. And we didn't spend any time to decide what people were doing. We were like I said before, this is our space. We've got the grow. You have the dispensary. And looking back now, we didn't have it. Our delegation was not there. I couldn't blame them for thinking the relationship was going to go differently. Nobody said anything. We didn't really have that upfront and honest conversation about who's doing what and why they're doing it and so on. Had we done that, we may have seen red flags and with the way people deal with situations. So we started, there was a little bickering back and forth there for the next 30 days. You know, in my mind at the time, all I had to do was think, we just got to get our harvest going. Let's get this done. And then we can all move forward. And then we'll be able to sell and everything will be hunky-dory and we'll be happy. Yeah, in a perfect world, right? While we work through the harvesting process, for anybody that's growers out there, you harvest, you hang, you lose about between 70 and 80% water weight at the end of your product, and then you're curing it. So there is some variances when you're harvesting. You don't really truly know. You can estimate about how much you're going to harvest from your experience, but we didn't have a lot of data at the time since we were growing so much more than we ever had been. You know, my background was I started with 6 lights in a basement. I moved to 20 lights, and then I moved to 40 lights. I just kept doubling each time. So you can only kind of estimate through that process until you get into commercial grow settings where you have hundreds of lights. And then you can kind of understand where your numbers are at and really what you can quote. You know, I think that was the scariest thing as growers quoting your yield before you actually see it. I learned a lot. I learned so much about counting your chickens before they're hatched. That's kind of how I live my life now. Nothing's for sure until you actually have it in hand. But it's been a great lesson for me. I use it all the time. Our harvest happened. Everybody was happy about it. And the drying process had started. Depending on where you're at in the U.S., it takes anywhere from a week to 2 weeks. And then you've got a week to 2 weeks, including the curing process. I won't go too much into detail of that, but basically getting the flour towards a nice spongy feel, and it's not over dry and it's not wet. It doesn't have tons of moisture in it. Through those 2 weeks, my business partners that were running the dispensary wanted us to weigh the product. It seemed like every other day we were weighing this product. As we were weighing the product, each day it was dropping. And I'm not sure if they just didn't have the experience or they didn't know how much weight we were going to be losing. You know, went from 30 pounds to 25 pounds to 20 pounds, which happens. Water, when you're dropping 70 to 80% of your weight, by the time it's ready to be consumed, you're losing a lot of weight. We had so many arguments in that time period, which, like I said, was just a month prior. We were hunky-dory and everybody was hugs and kisses. We got to the point where I think we were just a couple days from being ready to the product being cured and ready to sell, that the partners from the dispensary were accusing us of stealing the product. At the time, I didn't know what I had gotten into. I'm like, I'm not stealing anything. You guys do not understand the process. And on their side, whether they were ignorant to it or they were just, everybody's was very upset at the time, or we were just stressed out. I'm sure it was a multitude of different feelings that were happening. But that was the start of my first month with my new partnership. And now all of a sudden I'm married to these people. They were married to me. I'm sure they were just as frustrated with me because they thought I was ripping them off. I mean, I think we even got to the point where he almost called the cops on me. And it was so new at that time, we didn't want the cops called on us anyway because shoot, who knows? Maybe they'll just take it all away. We have no idea. It was such a ridiculous situation, but hindsight, had I looked into this situation, would it have changed my partnership? Potentially. Potentially it would have. I probably would have kept looking or found a few more people. I just didn't have the time. It worked out well for me in the end, but it could have been a much better process with the right partnership. So I guess that's what I'm trying to convey to you guys out there listening is pick your partners wisely because they're going to be with you for a long time, 3, 5, 10 years. And divorces are just as nasty in a professional marriage. So it doesn't get any easier. I had brought up in my last podcast that when you're thinking the distant and where you want your vision to be at and how far you see this going, you need to have an exit strategy. Well, a lot of the times, if you have that exit strategy, you can push forward to a point, let your partnerships know, or your partners, and let them know that, hey, I'm out of here in a year anyway. Let's just make it through this. Let's work through this. Whatever the situation you create for your exit strategy, that will at least give you a deadline to get out of that bad relationship because it becomes toxic and everybody's to blame on it. I definitely have had my side of it, but understanding who you're looking at to be on your side and who you can trust is everything, especially when you're growing so rapidly. You have to trust a lot of people with a lot of money, and they can walk right out the door in no time with all your cash. I heard partnerships going way worse than mine. People were stealing plants, stealing thousands of dollars. You name it, it was happening. And I know it's happening across the U.S. right now with all the new markets that have opened up. This is a cash-heavy industry, and greed takes on a new name when you start working with hundreds of thousands of dollars on a weekly basis. So I hope you take something from this podcast and use it to your advantage. Hopefully you're in a great partnership or you're working on a great one. That's what I'd love to see. But keep your eyes open for those red flags. What can you live with? Nobody's perfect, but what can you live with? Having somebody honest and that has your back is huge. One of the things that I do is I run background checks on people. There's a lot of nefarious characters in our industry. They're slowly getting weeded out, but they're out there. So protect yourself. Make sure your partnership also is weighted in your favor when you're dealing with outside money, because outside money, there's a lot of strings attached to that. So be careful out there. So I hope that was helpful for you guys today, and I look forward to talking to you guys again. If you want some more information, I write about this in my book, From Black Market to the Man, 10 Steps to Becoming a Multimillionaire in the Legal Cannabis Industry. You can find that on Amazon, or you can go to my website at blackmarketbook.com. Check it out. I spent a lot of time putting this together, and it's a good read, especially for the guy that's just thinking, well, what am I going to do in this industry? I'm trying to figure this out. Anyway, you guys have a great day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye for now.
You've just listened to another insightful episode of Plant Problems. If you like what you heard so far, don't forget to tell your friends and colleagues. For additional resources or to leave a review, head over to plantproblem.com. Join us again next week on Plant Problems with Tony Frischknecht. We look forward to having conversations with you as we go along this journey.